Good morning, friends. Today we're going to start building on the passage I talked about last time in Jeremiah 31, verse 20, where he says he thinks about us all the time and we are his great delight and his dear child. So stick with me for just a few minutes. I'm going to give you some brief history because we want to understand exactly why we can take this passage as belonging to ourselves and why we are his. Because at the beginning of the passage it says, "Isn't Ephraim my very dear son?" Well, who is Ephraim? Okay, so we're going to back up, and we're going to really back up to Abraham, because it was Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Ephraim. That's the order, okay? But we're going to talk briefly a moment. Do you know that Abraham was called Abraham the Hebrew in Genesis 14? And the word Hebrew means from the region beyond. Now we can know that's a fact because he formerly lived in Chaldea and he had to travel. But the Bible is a very spiritual book. And so spiritually, he's from the region beyond, meaning he was in the Father's heart all along, just like we can prove this out for ourselves. We were in the Father's heart. He knew us. He planned us. He knew us before we came here. So we are from the region beyond also. And let me explain to you about the difference between a Hebrew and a Jew. So Abraham had Isaac, Isaac had Jacob, Jacob had 12 sons, and these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And I'm not going to list all the names of the 12 tribes, but all of these are Hebrew because they're descendants of Abraham, and he was a Hebrew. But where did the word Jew come from? Jew is a shortening of the word Judah. So all of the descendants of the tribe of Judah, you can say they are Jews, but all the rest of the sons in their tribes, they are Hebrews. So we can all be Hebrews, but we're not all Jews. We would only be a Jew if we were a direct descendant of the tribe of Judah. So that's the difference. But you know what is in the Father's heart is that Jew and Gentile become one. And that the Jews love the Gentiles and the Gentiles love the Jews, and they become one new man in Yeshua. That's the ultimate heart of the Father. So we can be said, it can be said of us that we are Hebrews. So I want to establish that first. But then I want us to take a look at this. Who is Ephraim? Because in this passage it says, "Isn't Ephraim the son that I delight in so much?" Well, who is that? Okay, did you know that Ephraim was the second born child of Joseph? And he was a half-breed because Joseph's wife was an Egyptian. Now, if Ephraim would have been born during the day of Yeshua, he would have been called a Samaritan. The Samaritans were half-breeds. They were the people of the northern kingdom that were God's people that intermarried, and so they were half Jewish or half Hebrew, but they intermarried with the other nations, so they were called Samaritans, and they were greatly despised by the Jews. And that kind of goes on today, some too, because of half-breeds, or that's what the Gentiles are. But look at this. In Genesis 48, oh, I love this passage. When Jacob is dying and he's speaking to Joseph, and he's speaking to Joseph about Joseph's sons, what actually happens is Jacob replaces his firstborn son, Reuben, with Ephraim, who is Joseph's second-born son. And then he replaces Simeon with Manasseh, who was Joseph's firstborn son. It's important to see this because the election and the calling of God, it's like in that day, the firstborn was all it and got everything. But yet you see places like this where God shifted it. Like Ephraim was the secondborn. But yet he received he had a calling that was different. It's not about more valuable. We're all valuable, but there are different callings for everyone. So Ephraim was the second born son of Joseph. But listen to this passage in Genesis 48, verse 16, 15 to 16 in there. Then Jacob blessed Joseph, and he said, "The God in whose presence my father Abraham and Isaac lived." The God in whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac, they lived in his presence. I love that. The God who has been my own shepherd all my life. Oh my gosh, isn't that awesome? Jacob is saying this at the end of his life. I can say this right now. The God who has been my shepherd for all of my life. That's so powerful. To this day, and the angel who has rescued me from all harm, bless these boys. And previously in this passage is where he put the blessing on Ephraim, who was a Gentile. Okay? So the lineup of the generations is very important. And then he put this on Ephraim, who was a half-breed, a Gentile. So my point is this: all through, even the Old Testament, there is provision for the Gentiles. There is provision for us. I don't know if I have any Jewish blood in me or not. It's possible, but I don't know about it. But I am a Hebrew because I am in the seed of Abraham. I am in the seed of Ephraim. I want to close with these last two verses. In Galatians, which is so powerful, chapter 3, the last verse. Also, if you belong to the Messiah, you are in the seed of Abraham and heirs according to the promise. So Abraham was a Hebrew. I am in the seed of Abraham, who that seed does mean Yeshua because it's a capital S. Therefore, the descendants go down to Ephraim, and he was a Gentile, and he was grafted into the bloodline of the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, by the blessing of Jacob. So I'm just giving a little background today, because when we pick up with this verse in Jeremiah 31, it says, "Isn't Ephraim the son, my firstborn son?" That's what he's saying. Yahweh actually adopted Ephraim by what Jacob had to say. And we are in the seed of Abraham. So we are the dearly loved son of Yahweh. We are his delight, and he thinks about us all day. So I just wanted to share that with you today, because we're going to step into some of the Hebrew words on delight and how he thinks about us. But we want to understand how we are truly in this God of the generations. And you know, every one of us have concerns and things with family members and loved ones. And last night I was just thinking about some in my family and grandchildren. And you know, we just want to pray for them and hurry up and see the results. But you know, God is so long term. Like Moses was in the wilderness for 40 years the first time. And then he was in the wilderness 40 years the second time. I don't think God's on this hurry up and get it done plan. He's really a long-term God. Therefore, our trust in him is a long-term trust. But we are in him. We are in union with him because it has been his plan a long time. So I hope this blesses you today and lays a little bit of groundwork to where we're going with this passage in Jeremiah 31:20. I love you all. See you later.